electric vehicle in the world and the fastest growing brand in the UK car market. BYD and Super League Raw, building our dreams together. There we go, we're on, we're live. Let's do it proper. Here we go.
So, this is the start of the Joel and Dave road trip down to Wembley. Challenge Cup final tomorrow. Looking forward to this, Joel.
Yeah, very much so. It's going to be a great weekend, always is. And the weather is glorious.
It's absolutely glorious. And a big hello and a big thank you to all of our friends at BYD, of course, the principal sponsor, along with Pentagon Motor Group, who have loaned us a Seal 7 for the journey. Quite a hot bit of property, this, isn't it, Joel?
The Sea Lion 7 is one of the flagship cars, I think, of the BYD range. It's one that I'm certainly after personally, so you're going to be getting my hot take on it as the journey continues on. But let me tell you, so far, it is absolutely fantastic.
Well, we'll be going plenty of features on the car, but we'll also be talking rugby league all the way down to London. We're about to set off in a few moments' time. Memories will be shared between me and Joel in terms of our Challenge Cup journeys throughout our lifetime. We'll have a bit of fun as well along the way. We'll be also showing you how easy it is to plan your journey in a BYD down to London. We'll be stopping up at a couple of service stations, showing you how easy it is to charge this car, and we'll be giving you some features along the way. So without further ado, should we get going?
I think we should.
Let the good times roll.
Let's go.
Here we go.
Yeah, let the good times roll. And here we are on the M6, heading down to Wembley.
Wembley.
And our teams aren't playing. But anyway, yes, the Dave and Joel road trip has begun in the Sea Lion 7. It's a nice drive, isn't it?
It's a stunning drive. This is a vehicle I've been coveting for quite a number of months now, and it's making me want to buy one even more.
Happy days. And of course, if you're a member at Super League Raw or you watch Super League Raw, you get good deals at BYD. So make sure you contact us, and we're on our way down to Watford. That's where we're going to stop off, have a coffee and give it a little charge. But more details on the car later. Let's talk some rugby league. We'll get to the Challenge Cup final shortly, but before we do, Origin, mate. The Blues 18-0 down, win 22 points to 20. Hell of a game.
Well, that's what you expect from Origin, isn't it? That was, I think, came half time. I had my hands in my head. Head in my hands, sorry. Hey, there we go.
And
this is what you get when you're live.
One for the kids there. Right, carry on, sir, carry on.
And, you know, I genuinely thought, because I'm a Blues fan myself, I thought that we was going to struggle to come back there. But it was, that clearly shows that when you are the best players in the world, you can bring it down from a deficit like that. And man, did they do so. Came out the second half with a lovely try, and I think there was some other players that possibly should have been given chance of player of the match, but you might come on to that in a second, Dave.
Well, you're spot on, mate. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, Nathan Cleary, like he did in the grand final all those years ago, the last 15 minutes was the Cleary show, brilliant 40-20, took his try well, albeit the work was done for him with regards to that. But I felt personally, I thought Ethan Strange had a better game than him. I thought Hudson Young as well, in second row, had a hell of a game for the Blues. I thought he was very unfortunate not to get the accolade, but they do tend to go, and we'll probably talk Lance Todd Trophy at some point going down, but yeah, they do tend to go for halfbacks and hookers and all those type of roles. I think if it had been a Maroons win, I think Sammy Walker would have probably took the spot. I thought Sam Walker and Bonga in that first half, especially the first 15 minutes, they were just frightening.
Oh, they controlled the game throughout. They were, I think, the best two players on the pitch. You know, regardless of the finished scoreline, they controlled the ball as well as they always do, and I think that's why they were so far up at half time. And you know, you kind of look at players like Mikey Lewis in Super League that we're looking forward to watching tomorrow, and you kind of aspire to be as good as Walker and Ponga and players like that. And you know, hopefully we'll start to see if there is a takeover come NRL Europe, whatever you want to call it. We might see more players emerging like Sam Walkers and Pongas in the future.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And of course, it's a must-watch June 17th. Origin 2, the Maroons will be looking to bounce back. And I think, you know, from a neutral perspective, if you just watch Origin for the sheer spectacle and you're not a Maroon and you're not a Blue, then obviously a Maroons winning game 2 really picks that last game as always.
Yep.
Incredible. But I think New South Wales, because of history and the rest of it, they just want to get the job done, won't they, in game 2?
They will, and it could be possibly Tedesco's last Origin.
Surprised he played, mate. I mean,
I did.
Dylan Edwards. I was just of all of the picks, that was the one that astonished me. I genuinely thought Dylan Edwards would be the starting one.
I agree, but I think it was more nostalgia. If anything, it's going to be his last one. If we're all being honest now, he's not got long left to play, and
Took his try well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he took his try really well.
He did. I can't tell if we're doing a rugby league podcast journalist right now because we're trying to do two things at once.
Yeah. Well, we've just gone through the M6 toll, and we're making good, steady progress. There's a nice O'Neill's bar around from the hotel we're staying at this evening, so Guinness and Caffrey's could be the. We're talking about that. I mean, some of you are of a certain vintage. Remember Caffrey's back in the day, the Irish bitter.
What colour was the tin of Caffrey's?
Yeah.
If you know your beer, you'll know the colour of the tin.
Yeah. It's nice Caffrey's, very smooth.
Very smooth.
Very smooth.
It was what made Boddington's what it was, I think.
Well, I don't know. Melanie Sykes gave it a good go. Bless her. Mel, outstanding. Good evening, Mel. But yeah, no, great. I mean, Origin, absolutely superb. Roll on the 17th of June.
What do you expect with that day, by the way? Because that's going to be a big shout, that.
Do you know what? I mean, Origins can go either way. I think what we saw, look, we haven't talked about the most contentious thing, which was the sending off of Bonga.
Yes.
Again, it depends on the camera angles. I mean, it sounded to me like the video referee was saying it was a yellow, and it sounded like Ashley Klein was overruling it.
Overruling, yeah.
Which takes bottle. I mean, let's get if the video ref saying, I don't know if he was because you couldn't hear it, but just hearing like one side of the story, it would appear that Ashley Klein saw it different to the video ref, and I say you don't see that a lot. No. So he had to have conviction to do that. But now there's a massive, down in the Southern Hemisphere now. There's a petition that Klein can't referee another Origin this year.
It's certainly contentious.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, let's start. We'll weave in and out before we get to the Challenge Cup. Let's talk Challenge Cup memories, mate. So I mean, the kids won't get this. The kids just won't get it. But if you were around in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s, the Challenge Cup is just different gravy. If you're a rugby league fan, you know. It's as simple as that. And we've all got our stories, we've all got our memories of Challenge Cups over the years. From your perspective, any that really.
Can I just say, Dave, look at me, I was about goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
Just talking about the Challenge Cup.
Absolutely.
So for me, that is the pinnacle of rugby league in England. I think, grand finals are fantastic, and obviously everyone wants to win a grand final, but there is a certain pedigree behind winning the Challenge Cup. And I thought it was very interesting. Some coaches have had to try and instill into some of the Aussie blokes and the overseas guys just how important it is to win a Challenge Cup. And for those who aren't as aware or are a bit younger than myself and Dave for sure, view the Challenge Cup like the FA Cup final. But in our eyes, it's far bigger because there's a lot of competitions in football, whereas there isn't so much in rugby. And for you to be able to walk out at Wembley, which is such an iconic stadium, and for those who are vintage enough will remember the old Wembley, it was an eerie ground to be in, especially if you was a fan who a side that weren't meant to be winning, if you're the underdogs. But this is a massive weekend. I remember my first ever one I went to, and I just went into the ground and I just couldn't speak certainly for the first half an hour, because I was just in awe of the whole event. And when Huddersfield first made it into a Challenge Cup final that I went to was 2009 against Warrington.
And I remember that well.
Yeah, that was who you do.
also than the first Magic in Cardiff. We'll just leave it there.
And can I just say, I still own the Giants towel that my mum took down and wrapped around her all day long to give her some good luck. And clearly it didn't work. But that holds a lot of good memories for me, does the Challenge Cup. Especially last year, for those who remember that are watching, I was able to bring my dad with me.
Yeah.
And,
good times.
It's unfortunate that both my mum and dad are very poorly right now. And even though my dad may not be able to make it back down to Wembley again, this is going to be a bit of an emotional one for me now. Coming without my dad, but I know he's watching. He's probably watching right now. So, Dad, Mum, I love you very much.
Indeed.
And please enjoy your rugby, because I know you do. My dad will not miss a single game of rugby league, and he's certainly going to be watching this one. So, love you, Dad.
But that's the bit, absolutely, mate, and that's it, isn't it? You know, it is about family. You know, we're down here with our Super League Raw family this weekend. You know, and looking forward to spending some quality time with some exceptional people. But yeah, I mean, I remember in the 80s. I mean, look, talk about Challenge Cup finals. You know, I remember. I mean, we went to the Challenge Cup finals on the coach, the Woolston Rovers coach. You know, probably from around 1985, 86, 87, 88. And then, of course, in 98, the one that, for obvious reasons, absolutely stays in my head is the 1990 Cup final, Wigan against Warrington. Of course, the Mike Gregory, exceptional Gregory try. You know, in that particular game, the late great Mike Gregory. Let's be honest about that. Desi Drummond and Iro having a bit of a tip in the corner. Yes. All the fun of the fair. But you just couldn't do this. I mean, this will make a few people wins. How times have changed, right? But in 1990, my uncles were joiners, and they're like a transit van. And we actually had deck chairs in the back of the transit van. Honestly, God's honest truth, we were in the back of a transit van, full transit van, with deck chairs around the side, playing cards. Honestly, going down in the transit van.
If you want to do.
You didn't have any seatbelts. You sat in a deck chair. Sat in a deck chair, playing cards down, back into, you know, like say, dearie me, and you know the rules and regulations now around the driving. But genuinely, you know, and at the time, you know, I was only. Well, I'd have been 11. I'd have been 12 that year. I'd have been 11, and just great memories. And you know, we had the van all decked out in primrose and blue, and you know, on the outside, and it was just an occasion, an absolute occasion. And you know, back then, you know, and this is where it does upset me in terms of, you know, we've got a great sport, but we as fans at times we talk it down, and we've got a great spectacle that is the Challenge Cup final. I remember when I was a kid stopping off at service stations on the way down on the side there, and you see virtually every single amateur and professional rugby league shirt that well, they weren't professional then, really, but you know what I mean, you know, first tier, second tier, etc. And you just bump in, you'd have a laugh, and you'd have a joke and a giggle with them. And you know, I was saying to Joel, you know, there's a lot of talk about the attendance tomorrow being maybe sub 60,000, just over 60,000. And Billy Ingram, 18th man on tour, he mentioned on our feed that, you know, had the 1895 Cup still been at Wembley tomorrow, and had it been a London win this final, which it looks as if it could possibly be, that's probably worth 4,000, maybe 5,000 extra people in the stadium. I agree with him on that. But of course, you've got to get the economies of scale right. But we mustn't forget this. If you look at the Premiership Cup in the other code, they only get 20,000 in their final. You know, and this is what people miss. Rugby union internationally, absolutely, but as a domestic sport, you know, rugby league batters it domestically. And you know, we're quick to judge, but you know, when it comes to that, when it comes to a rugby ball, domestic rugby league, not international, batters union, and look at how much press union gets. So sometimes you've got to, you know, and I did a little bit of research. Yes, the Championship playoff that of course gets you up to the Premier League, that got 80,000. But you know, we're on for a bigger crowd than the League One playoff final. And again, you know, it's our national sport, so I think it's times we've got to stop talking it down. 60,000 majority Northern fans. I mean, let's be fair, the majority will come from Wigan and it'll come from Hull. Making the pilgrimage. Then, of course, people like us who've got no skin in the game but come for the love of the game. They should celebrate it more, shouldn't we?
We should, and you've made a very interesting point there, Dave. For those that don't know much about union, and I certainly don't myself, but what I do know, because I've got a lot of family who are union fans, unfortunately, I don't know why you'd want to support that code, but that's, you know, everyone does what they do. But the interesting
bringing that, so bring it.
Well, exactly, yeah, that's it. It's always brought up well, you see,
absolutely.
Yeah, you're a good man. The interesting point you made was the rugby union international stage is so massive. This is the reason why union clubs can get paid so much money, and it's why the brand deals are so big. Now, the thing is, if they didn't have the international stage that they had, union wouldn't be as big as it is.
Yeah.
And the fan base that we have in league is, you know, up there. The only thing that beats it is the Premier League. And, you know, that you're never going to change that because it's the national sport. However, all it takes is for NRL to come in, take this over, become NRL Europe, and they will have that impact and that force behind them to tell these media outlets that there is something here in rugby league, domestically, not just internationally. And once they see that, that's where the money can start rolling in. But the important key thing is here, we have to keep getting bums on seats, for one. And two, we have to keep the positivity going about the sport. Because this is the one thing that we do in rugby league that nobody else does. And Dave mentioned it, right from the 70s and 80s, that was the time where both teams could get together and love being in each other's company without any problems. And that doesn't happen in any other sport.
No.
So this is something that's very close to our hearts, and I can only speak for myself and Dave here. And I'm sure it is for those who are listening. We want rugby league not just to thrive, but to grow. And for it to grow, it needs these voices. And, that's why we're going to keep banging that drum. We're going to keep on it, and we're going to keep being passionate about it. Because this is a game that we love. And once people realise how good rugby league is, they're going to get hooked and they're never going to leave.
Spot on, mate. Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it's interesting as well, because, the glorious thing that is YouTube, you watch the old finals now. And I was talking to Craig Lingard, for those who watch Championship Rugby League with Craig Lingard. If you haven't discovered that, ladies and gentlemen, wrapping up all things Championship levels. You had male voice choirs on the pitch. Your team was full an hour before kick-off. The schoolboys game was played in front of a full house. And I have to say, the governing body they need to answer for that, because I don't think the rugby league support has changed. I don't quite get it. I think over the years it's been a bit more down because finals and the build-up and the old sun. I mean, old Wembley, there was nothing like it. And the kids will, the new stadium, don't get me wrong, state of the art. It's a phenomenal stadium. We're in Club Wembley tomorrow. It's a phenomenal facility. But those who experienced old Wembley, it was just something incredible, wasn't it? Out of this world, incredible. I mean, it was a cauldron. It was a cauldron of noise. And I think Craig hit the nail on the head in Championship Rugby League when he said, that wasn't built with corporate hospitality in mind. That was a good old traditional stadium with so much history and so much heritage. And like I say, it's a shame really, especially the schoolboys one, that that game I think will be kicking off pretty much close to, will the stadium even be open? I don't know. Because of course, I think I'm not quite sure when the stands open, but probably about 11 o'clock. It's the women's game kicks off at 11:15. So I mean that'd be interesting. Of course, we mentioned on week Jodie Cunningham, Emily Woods, their final game at Wembley. They're hanging up the boots at the end of this season, creating incredible trailblazers for the women's game. But yeah, I mean, like I say, great memories. The '98 final, Sheffield. Sheffield Wigan, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I mean, you talk about that. I think to this day, is probably still the biggest upset ever in Challenge Cup final history, isn't it?
I think that's the video that keeps playing on Facebook every week, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the commentary, you've got to give it, Dave. The commentary back then was
he's in there! He's in there! He's gonna try! That's that's my best Ray French impression. That's what it was, wasn't it? That's how I used to do it. Outstanding. But yeah, you're right. Again, it's the same in all sports. Those iconic commentators that we grew up on. They were. I mean, it's like egg and beans, isn't it? Ray French in the Challenge Cup. They just go together, don't they?
I think we should start a petition. Do you think we should get Super League Raw to be the new commentators for the Challenge Cup final?
Maybe we best Ray French.
Absolutely.
That'd be funny games, wouldn't it? Oh dear Lord! But no, the late great Ray French. Yeah, happy days. He was never biased towards Saints, Ray.
No, come on.
You never got an extra bit giddy with Saints, did it?
No, yeah, you had no idea who he liked.
Absolutely not. But yeah, look, great stuff, outstanding. We'll keep talking rugby league as we're going down. In terms of, let's just get into this debate because we've got the time tonight. This nonsense over scheduling, absolute nonsense. I mean, we hinted at it on Weekly that had Wakefield, and let's be fair, you Wigan fans out there, very close. Wind blows slightly a different way in that game against Wake in the quarter final. not saying Wakey don't go on to be Saints, but you know, if Wakey were in the final, they were drawn away to Toulouse. I mean, somebody's got to go to Toulouse, and I think what the problem is, unless you, and we've seen this as well in terms of what Wakey did last year, it's not straightforward. It's going, well, we need the top 7 to play the bottom 7 from the previous season. Somebody's still got to go, unless they obviously put the French teams over here. Somebody's still got to go to Catalan, maybe. Somebody's still got to go to Toulouse. That's not the greatest preparation in the world. And as Wally Peters has shown, he was going up against Wigan. He didn't know what that Pete was going to do. He played his strongest side.
Yep.
And I just think, for me, there's an arrogance around that. I think it's nonsense. Who's to say who's getting... I mean, it used to be, you know, when we were back in the 80s, folks, yeah, Wigan were in the Challenge Cup, fine. Sure as eggs are eggs. Probably funny lines would be our next sponsor. That's the amount of eggs they're getting promoted here. But the bottom line is, unless it was the 80s and 90s where Wigan were pretty much a shoo-in to get to the Challenge Cup final, I'm sorry, but Leeds, Warrington, Wigan, Saints, Wakey, Lee, KR, all of these teams, and then you can even turn around and say, as an outside bet, somebody else having a bit of a run. You only got to win 3 or 4, two. Not the quarters, the semis, isn't it? Really, when it starts to kick in. I personally think it's nonsense. I think there's an arrogance around that. I don't see how you can possibly schedule a week. I think the only way around it is there should be a week off before the Challenge Cup. It's the only way you can do it.
Or what you do is, and this is also an issue. You couldn't. The only other possible way is by extending the year slightly. But then the problem you've got is
international for 2 weeks.
Yeah. No. Yes, let's make it 53rd week. Because if we're going to extend, well, this problem's going to be even worse, isn't it? When we go to 15.
Yeah.
But then you're going to have to extend the months.
You get a bye round then. 15 teams, you get a bye round.
But that might help.
Oh, yeah, you get a bye round. But then the argument will be, what if the team that gets into the Challenge Cup final got a bye round the week before?
So there's always a problem.
Yeah. Surely you should have foreseen that team were going to get to the Challenge Cup and you give them a bye round the week before.
Yeah.
It's just a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense, mate, for me. There's a lot of people have come out and had to say on it. For me, I just think, how can you, especially at the moment, and I think it's a tribute to where the game actually is at the moment, that I don't think you can call who's going to get to a Challenge Cup final. No. I mean, don't get me wrong, the law of averages go into next season. To be on week seeded 1 and 2 for the Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
Like everything, there's a seeding system, but as we've seen this year, on any given day, this season has proved it. Wigan can be beaten. KR can be beaten. They can all be beaten.
We beat Wigan.
Exactly. Should we just let that hang there for a bit?
Please.
Just let that hang there for a bit. You're going to be dining out on that for the rest of the season. That's as good as it gets.
I've got to say, I did say on one of the weeklies, I said that we did. We won 2. So I'll take that.
I think you'd be up for an all between now and the end of the season. Like I said, just for the seeding, we know there's a seeding system there, but for me personally, I think that's a nonsense, an absolute nonsense. Right, we're 12 miles away from pulling over and giving this thing a bit of juice. We're going to have to end this in a bit because we've got to do a separate little feed for our friends at BYD. For those who don't know, we're actually in a Sea Lion 7 here, donated for this road trip by BYD and Pentagon Motor Group. Thank you very much indeed to our friends for doing that there. Joel, as you can see behind the wheel, he's debating buying one of these little beauties. And let's just give it a little bit of a plug. So I've got a bit of detail here, ladies and gentlemen. 0 to 62 in 4.5 seconds. This beast does 4.5 seconds, a top speed of 133. We won't be trying that out.
Can I say though, I think that probably is understated. I bet it'll beat that.
Well, possibly. We're not going to try. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Some lovely stuff in here. Up to 312 miles on a full charge. We left Northwich. We're now, like I say, coming up to the M1. We've still got 177 miles in.
57% of the battery remaining.
Yeah, 57% of the battery remaining. We are going to stop off at Watford just to top it up a little bit because we want to get a flyer on Monday. Job important engagement to get to back in Huddersfield. So we're going to stop in a minute. We're going to do a little bit on charging in this, that, and the other. But before we do, let's talk. First and foremost, Jai Whitbread not travelled with
Mm.
KR, which, you know, that for me, it's the right thing. It's his first child, I'm led to believe, that Jai's going to have over the course of the weekend. And, you know, fair play to all KR, honouring that. You know, I think in some sport, I mean, remember the Roy Keane one? I remember Roy Keane when he was doing something, I think, Ireland or something, where they were on about one of the players was due to have was having a baby, and he said, "I said, well, he don't have it." So, you know, it was that.
Yeah.
You know, that was what he said. Left hand here, mate, for M1, just guiding Joe on the journey. So yeah, well done to KR. You know, family should come first, and that's the way it is. Do you say? I mean, that's a big call because Whitbread. Let me say it's not a big call. It's the right thing that they've done. But on the field, that's a massive hole because Whitbread is a very, very solid player. Can do good minutes, good work, good engine on him, good in D. He's got the odd try here and there as well. So that's going to affect them in terms of interchange and go forward.
Yeah, he's been one of, I won't say the catalyst, because it's hard with KR. Take the glasses off. It's the clouds have just come over us. He's been a player that has had a massive impact on the game. Now we talk about forwards winning the game for you all the time, but what he does is he always seems to go at 110%. And these are the kind of games that you need them players in. Jai Whitbread can quite easily go under the radar because he does things very simply, but he just does it excellent. He's that's what you call pure excellence. But you know, the thing is that takes us on to the point of this is where KR is as a club. They look after their people, be it players, backroom staff. Now, I know this firsthand that KR look after their staff. I know somebody who's gone to KR, part of the marketing team, and they're absolutely loving life there, and they really look after people. And that's where you get good clubs, and the great players want to play at good clubs. And KR are becoming and are now a great club. And I think it's good that they've got the depth in the squad, but I think Jai will be missed massively because KR have a very good pack. They have punch, they have go forward, the engines and the players are fantastic. And you know, you could quite easily see Jai going to scoring a try. You know, that's just how good of a player he is.
Pops up, doesn't it? I mean, the thing is, I mean, again, just sticking on KR, you know, we'll get onto the big story in terms of the number 6 for Wigan and Willie, won't see when we come back on the other side of the services. But, you know, equally KR, you know, there's depending on who you listen to and who you want to believe. Carl Lawton's playing if he's not, Dean Hadley's playing he's not. You know, they've got a couple of themselves where, you know, they're in the squad and there's a big question mark over if they will play or not. And again, you know, I think Carl Lawton, I think they can probably live with that, if I'm being honest. I think the one that really would hurt would be Dean Hadley. I think Dean Hadley, for the last 2 seasons, probably the last 3 seasons, he's the KR fans, not to KR fans, but outside of KR, we know through doing what we're on, not everybody's into the detail of every other club. So it might be overlooked by some fair weather fans who aren't into the detail of each club, but people who know the rugby league, they know how it works.
Hadley can play near on 80 minutes. That's how good of a player he is. As could Sue if he had to. I don't think he would want. He certainly wouldn't do that to him on a Challenge Cup final. But this is the point we're making. You know, KR have got players who have engines that these forwards can play a full 80 minutes if they really had to. Of course, it'd be dangerous to do that, and you wouldn't do that. But you know, this is the fitness that these boys have, and the strength that they possess. It's quite funny and how these players can be overlooked and underrated by so many people. And it's why it's so important that you do listen to the stats that are given to you at Weekly, because it can sometimes be the difference between having a tip going either way for you. You know, you listen to Bet Steph, you know, Steph knows his
Steady on. Steady on. Well, yeah, absolutely listen to Captain John. Bet Step might be going a bit too far. And obviously the tackle talkers as well, who are really into the stats post game. Yeah. They get down and dirty in terms of the stats as well. If you haven't listened to Tackle Talk this week, great on the MRP, and
shout out to Carla.
Carla and Carrie, doing a real job on that. And of course, the boys on USA, they wrap it up in terms of more the action on the field with the naked eye, which is good as well. But yeah, look, I think for me, it's going to be interesting to see who starts, who is, and who isn't in that squad in terms of Lawton and in terms of Hadley. Like I said, we'll get into the squads and more chat about that.
Lawton will be a shout, won't he?
Well, Lawton's like the Mickey Mack of this season, and
Yeah.
that's what he's there to do. He's to do the grunt, and I think that's the interesting thing about Dean Adler. We saw it last year with Mickey Mack. That they tried to get they wanted 20 minutes out of Mickey Mack. They got that. And it might be the same with Dean Adler. That they just want a certain job done by him.
Let's just hope he doesn't cannonball anybody again.
Well, yeah. Let's have a clean game.
Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a clean game. But yeah, look, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to wrap this part one up. We are literally a stone's throw from Watford Gap. We're going to have a coffee and do a little bit of BYD in terms of what we've committed to for our good friends over at BYD and Pentagon Ford. We hope you've enjoyed part one. When we come back, we will have a chat about the Wigan squad that's been announced and the connotations around that. We'll also, of course, continue to chat KR as well. We've already given predictions on weekly. We don't need to do that. Albeit we might have changed our mind, especially with Fred and if Andy and Lawton both didn't feature. I think that would be. I went KR by 12. I don't think it'd be as confident of a KR by 12 if Hadley and Lawton followed with Brett not played. I'd have to say, but we'll keep on the conversation. But like I say, we're a few miles away now from Watford Gap. We'll be doing plenty of this. We are going to do a live tomorrow as well from Club Wembley with the members. So that's going to be available. I can't remember what time I'll put that on for. It's about 12:30 tomorrow. We'll be in the bar, probably the Lionesses bar in Club Wembley, and we'll be doing a couple of lives out of there as well.
And where we're meeting, Dave?
At the statue, yes. So if you're down at Wembley tomorrow, the Bobby Moore statue at the end of Wembley Way, we will be there about 11:15 tomorrow, meeting with the members before we go into the ground. So certainly if you're in and around the statue about 11:15, you can come and say hello. We'd love to have a photo with you and maybe get you on a quick live as well. So that's where we are. But literally, I've just seen we are literally a half a mile away. So we're going to end this one now. We will be back a little bit later on with part number 2. We hope you've enjoyed it. And like I say, we will see you later on. Thanks so much for your time.
Bye.
Yeah, bye for now. Here we go.